At 4:17 a.m. on December 16, 1944, Major Thomas Callahan's hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from fear, from rage. The paper in front of him was stained with mud and blood, not his blood. The runner who delivered it was passed out in the corner, 19 years old, barely breathing after running 7 miles through German lines. Callahan read the orders again, his vision blurred. Hold position, no retreat, fight to the last man, division relief in 48 hours. Relief wasn't coming in 48 hours. Relief wasn't coming at all. Thomas Callahan commanded what was left of the 2nd Battalion, 423rd Infantry Regiment, 106th Infantry Division. 3 days ago, he'd had 871 men. Now he had maybe 400. The rest were dead, wounded, or missing. The battalion wasn't a fighting unit anymore. It was a collection of scared kids who'd been in combat for less than a week, surrounded by an entire German army, watching their friends die in the snow. The 106th Division had arrived in Belgium on December 11th, 5 days before the world ended. They'd been told this was a quiet sector. The Ardennes. Nothing ever happened here. Perfect place for green troops to learn the ropes before facing serious combat. At 5:30 a.m. on December 16th, reality hit. German artillery opened up along a 60-mile front. The barrage lasted 90 minutes. Callahan had never heard anything like it. The ground shook. Trees exploded. Men screamed prayers into snow that turned red faster than it turned white. Then came the tanks, panzers, SS troops, an entire German army group smashing through positions held by boys who'd never fired their rifles in anger before last week. What the historians would later call the Battle of the Bulge, what Callahan's men called the day they learned what dying looked like. By noon on the 16th, the battalion was cut off. No communication with division, no resupply, no reinforcements. They'd held through the first day, repulsed 4 German attacks, but ammunition was running low. Medical supplies were gone. Casualties were mounting in the frozen command post that smelled like blood and gangrene. On the second day, December 17th, German forces tightened the noose. Callahan's battalion was surrounded on 3 sides, maybe 2,000 German soldiers against his 400. The mathematics were simple, brutal, clear. His intelligence officer, Captain James Rourke, stood across the frozen map table. Rourke was 26, West Point graduate, smart kid who analyzed everything. He'd been tracking German movements all night, his hands shaking from exhaustion or fear, or both. He looked at Callahan with hollow eyes. "Sir, if we stay here, we're dead. All of us. Or worse." Worse meant surrender, becoming prisoners, spending the rest of the war if they survived in a German POW camp. Callahan stared at the map, at the orders from division headquarters, then at the faces around him. Captain Robert Mitchell, a company, who had a wife and 2-month-old daughter he'd never seen. Captain David Sullivan, B Company, who kept a letter from his mother in his helmet that he read every night. Captain Frank DeLuca, C Company, the Philadelphia cop who sang Irish songs when he was scared. Captain William Bradford, D Company, the Iowa farmer who told stories about his dairy cows to anyone who'd listen. 400 faces, 400 lives, against orders that would kill them all for no strategic gain, no tactical value. Just following stupid orders because some general 20 miles away didn't understand that the front had collapsed. Callahan made his decision at 4:32 a.m. Get the company commanders, now. If you want to see how Callahan's disobedience saved hundreds of lives, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories from the war. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Callahan. The 4 company commanders crowded into the command post at 4:47 a.m. They looked like walking corpses, eyes sunken, faces gray. They'd been fighting for 36 hours without sleep. Callahan didn't waste time. We're breaking out, small groups, we move tonight. Silence. Then Mitchell spoke carefully. "Sir, division orders say hold position. Division orders will murder every man here, Callahan said. His voice was flat, dead. Look at the situation. We're surrounded. The 422nd Regiment surrendered yesterday. We got the report before communications went down. 7,000 men. The 423rd is next. Division knows it. They're writing us off. Those orders? He jabbed a finger at the blood-stained paper. Those orders are a death sentence with official letterhead. Sullivan's voice was quiet. Sir, withdrawing without orders is desertion. They'll shoot you. Probably, Callahan agreed, but you'll be alive. Now here's what we're doing. Callahan had been planning this since midnight. Not a battalion withdrawal. That was impossible. Too many men, too much noise. The Germans would spot them and destroy them in the open. Instead, small groups, 20 men each, 20 separate escape attempts through different routes. Infiltration tactics. We split into 20 teams, Callahan explained. Mix of combat effective and wounded. Each team has a route west towards Streetvith. Different routes, different timings. Some go north through the forest. Some go south along the creek beds. We spread out, make them chase 20 targets instead of one. DeLuca frowned. Sir, that's not a withdrawal. That's abandoning the battalion. The battalion's already gone, Callahan said quietly. We lost it on December 16th. What we have now is 400 men who deserve a chance to live. Small groups can infiltrate through German lines. A full battalion can't, so we give them small groups. Bradford raised the question everyone was thinking. What about the wounded, the ones who can't walk? Callahan's jaw tightened. This was the part that haunted him. Each team carries as many wounded as they can, priority to those who can survive the journey. The others. He stopped. Couldn't finish. Mitchell finished for him. The others we leave with morphine and a prayer. The silence in that command post was crushing. They were talking about leaving wounded men behind, men who'd fought beside them, bled beside them, men who'd die in the snow because they couldn't walk fast enough to escape. I can't order anyone to abandon wounded, Callahan said. His voice cracked. Every team leader makes that choice. But understand this, if you try to carry men who can't survive the journey, you'll all die. The Germans will catch you, kill you, then kill the wounded anyway. Sometimes the best you can do is give a man morphine and tell him you're sorry. Murphy, the flight engineer from the B-17 story, wasn't here. This was a different Murphy. Technical Sergeant Frank Murphy from Brooklyn, 28 years old, 3 kids at home. He spoke up from the back. Sir, who decides who gets left behind? I do, Callahan said immediately. That decision's mine. Nobody else carries that. I'll talk to each man we can't take. I'll give them morphine. I'll stay until they're gone. Then I'll catch up to my team. That's on me, not you. The company commanders exchanged looks. They understood what Callahan was doing. Taking all the weight, all the guilt, protecting them from the moral destruction of leaving men behind. Rourke spoke for the first time. Sir, when we reach American lines, if we reach them, division will arrest you immediately. Court-martial, possibly execution. I know, Jim, Callahan said quietly, but I've been an officer for 16 years to lead men, not murder them. If following orders means watching 400 men die for nothing, then I'm not following orders. I'll take the court-martial. I'll take whatever comes. But I won't kill my own men because some headquarters 20 miles away doesn't understand we're already overrun. Mitchell nodded slowly. When do we start? 10 p.m. tonight, Callahan said. Full darkness. Moon's not up until 3. That gives us 5 hours of darkness to get clear. Company commanders, split your men into teams of 20. Mix experience with green. Put a sergeant in charge of each team. Give them routes. Tell them if they get separated, head southwest. The company commanders left to organize their men. Callahan stood alone with Rourke. His hands were shaking again. Rourke saw it, said nothing. Jim, I need you to do something, Callahan said quietly. Document this. Write down what happened. Who gave the orders? Why I disobeyed. If I don't make it, someone needs to know this wasn't cowardice. This was murder prevention. Rourke pulled out a small notebook. started writing. His handwriting was terrible, shaking too much. But he wrote it all down. Every word. At 6 p.m., Callahan walked through what was left of his battalion, talked to the wounded, explained what was happening. Some of them understood, some didn't. Some begged to be left behind, knew they couldn't make the journey, didn't want to slow down their friends. Private Eddie Morrison from Georgia wasn't among them. That was a different story. But there was a kid just like him, Private James Harrison, 19, both legs frozen, gangrene setting in. He looked up at Callahan with eyes that knew. "Sir, I'm not making it, am I?" Callahan knelt in the snow beside him. "No, son, you're not." Harrison nodded, didn't cry, didn't protest. "Will you tell my mama I wasn't scared?" "You tell her yourself," Callahan lied. He pressed 2 morphine syrettes into Harrison's hand. "You're coming with us." Callahan assigned Harrison to Mitchell's team, told Mitchell to carry him as long as possible. Mitchell understood. They'd carry Harrison until the Germans got close. Then they'd give him morphine. Leave him sleeping. It was the best mercy they had. 47 wounded like Harrison. Some would make it, most wouldn't. Callahan talked to each one, memorized their names, their faces. The guilt would come later. Right now, he had 400 men to save. At 10 p.m., the breakout began, 20 teams slipping into darkness. 5 minutes between teams, different routes. Some went north through dense forest, some south along frozen creek beds, some east first, then looping west counterintuitive, but the Germans wouldn't expect it. Callahan moved with Team 7, 17 men plus 3 wounded on improvised stretchers. They moved through forests so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Men stumbled over roots, fell into snowdrifts. The wounded bit down on leather straps to keep from screaming when stretchers tilted wrong. At 11:47 p.m., they heard gunfire to the north. Team 3 had been spotted. German machine guns, screaming, then silence. Maybe they'd escaped. Maybe they were dead. No way to know. Team 7 kept moving, southwest, always southwest, through forests that tore at their uniforms, across frozen streams that cracked under their weight. One man, Corporal Davis, fell through ice. They pulled him out. He was shaking so hard his teeth chattered like machine gun fire. They wrapped him in blankets, kept moving. If they stopped, they died. At 1:34, they spotted German soldiers, a patrol, 8 men, Wehrmacht infantry, moving east, heading toward the battalion's old positions, looking for prisoners to capture. Callahan's team dropped flat in the snow, held their breath. The Germans walked past, 20 feet away. So close, Callahan could hear them talking, complaining about the cold, about American artillery, normal soldier talk. They had no idea 17 Americans were lying in the snow watching them. The Germans disappeared into darkness. Team 7 waited 5 minutes, then kept moving. At 4:03 a.m., one of the wounded, Sergeant Phillips, stopped breathing. They'd been carrying him for 6 hours, shrapnel in his chest, internal bleeding. He'd known he wasn't going to make it. Told them 3 hours ago. "Just get me as far as you can, boys." He'd made it 4 miles. Died quietly. Didn't scream. Didn't beg. Just stopped. They buried him in snow. Shallow grave. Marked it with his rifle stuck bayonet first into the ground. Someone said a prayer. Then they kept moving, because stopping meant joining Phillips in the snow. At 05:47 hours, as dawn broke gray and cold, Team 7 spotted American positions. A roadblock, 2 Sherman tanks, infantry, the beautiful sight of American helmets instead of German ones. Callahan approached carefully, hands visible, identified himself. The infantry company commander, a captain named Morrison, listened, then got on the radio. 15 minutes later, a lieutenant colonel arrived. James Parker, 1st Infantry Division, the big red one. Parker looked at the exhausted soldiers stumbling toward his lines. "You're from the 106th? "What's left of it, sir?" Callahan said. His voice was barely a whisper. He hadn't slept in 3 days. "I'm Major Thomas Callahan, 2nd Battalion, 423rd Infantry. We broke out. Small groups. I don't know how many made it. Over the next 6 hours, more teams appeared. Team 12, Team 4, Team 17. Some teams had all 20 men. Some had 8, some had 3. Team 9 never appeared. Neither did Team 14 or Team 18. Dead or captured. No way to know. By 2 p.m. on December 18th, the count was complete. 387 men had made it through German lines. Out of the original 400 who'd attempted the breakout, 13 killed during the escape, 47 wounded left behind, probably dead by now. 387 lives saved, 60 dead or missing. The mathematics of survival. Parker looked at Callahan. His face was hard. Major, I understand you withdrew without authorization. Yes, sir, Callahan said. He was swaying on his feet. Exhaustion. I received orders to hold position. I determined those orders would result in complete loss of my battalion. I ordered a breakout. Small groups, infiltration tactics. The decision was mine. My company commanders advised against it. I overruled them. Parker stared at him for a long moment. How many men did you bring out? 387, sir. We lost 13 during the escape. We left 47 wounded who couldn't make the journey. Parker's expression changed, something like respect or horror. You left 47 wounded behind? Yes, sir. Callahan's voice broke. I gave them morphine. I stayed with each one until I told them I was sorry. It's the only thing I could do. Parker looked at the column of exhausted soldiers. 387 men alive because one major had disobeyed orders. 60 men dead because the same major had made impossible choices about who lived and who didn't. Major Callahan, I'm placing you under arrest for disobeying orders in the face of the enemy. You'll be escorted to division headquarters. Yes, sir. Callahan said it like a man who'd expected nothing less. 2 MPs approached. They didn't handcuff him, just walked beside him. Callahan looked back one time. His men were watching. Mitchell saluted. Sullivan saluted. DeLuca, tears streaming down his face, saluted. All 4 company commanders saluting the man who'd saved their lives by destroying his career. Callahan returned the salute, then climbed into the jeep that would take him to his court-martial. But his men were alive. 387 of them. That was worth everything. The court-martial convened on January 8, 1945. Callahan was charged with willful disobedience of orders during combat. The prosecution was brutal, presented the written orders. Radio logs, testimony from runners, clear violation of military law. The defense tried to argue tactical necessity. Callahan had made a battlefield decision, saved lives. But the prosecution countered hard. Discipline requires following orders. Allowing officers to disobey creates chaos. Callahan's actions, while sympathetic, were fundamentally incompatible with military service. On January 12th, the verdict came down. Guilty. Sentence: dismissal from service, immediate, loss of all pay and allowances, dishonorable discharge. Callahan stood at attention, showed nothing. When asked if he had anything to say, he replied, "No, sir. I accept the court's judgment." Then Major General Allen Jones, commanding general of the 106th Infantry Division, stood up. Permission to address the court. Jones walked to the front like a man going to his execution. His voice cracked on the first word. I commanded the 106th Division. He stopped, swallowed hard. His hands were shaking. A 2-star general, shaking. I gave orders on December 16th. Hold at all costs, I said. Fight to the last man, I said. I was wrong. Those orders destroyed my division. Over 7,000 men killed or captured. 2 entire regiments surrendered, the largest American surrender since Bataan. His voice broke completely. Major Callahan disobeyed my orders. He saved 387 men by refusing to follow them. I wish to God every officer in my command had his courage. I wish I'd had his courage to admit when orders were wrong. Jones looked directly at Callahan. Major, you were a better commander than I was. You understood what I couldn't. that sometimes saving lives means breaking rules. This court has found you guilty, and legally, that's correct. But morally, historically, you were right. I was wrong. If this army punishes you for saving lives, then something's wrong with this army." Jones saluted Callahan. The general saluted the disgraced major, then left the courtroom. The verdict stood. Callahan was dismissed from service. But Jones's testimony changed everything. Letters flooded the War Department, from Callahan's soldiers, from their families, from congressmen, from newspapers, all saying the same thing: don't punish the man who saved 387 lives. On March 27, 1945, General Dwight Eisenhower reviewed the case personally. Eisenhower understood impossible choices. He'd made plenty. He issued an order: Callahan's dismissal suspended, reinstated to active duty as major, full restoration of pay and rank. Eisenhower wrote Callahan a personal letter. "Your decision on December 17th demonstrated moral courage this army desperately needs. You saved 387 American soldiers by refusing to follow orders that would have killed them. That took more courage than any medal can recognize. You did the right thing. History will remember." Callahan never framed that letter. Kept it in a drawer. Read it on bad nights when the faces of those 60 men haunted him. The ones who didn't make it. The ones he'd left in the snow. He served 22 more years. Rose to colonel. Commanded a regiment in Korea. Taught tactics at the Command and General Staff College. Retired in 1967 with full honors. Lived to age 81. Died in 1993. At his funeral, 143 men from his battalion attended, some in their 70s, some barely able to walk, but they came, traveled across the country to honor the man who'd saved them. Mitchell gave the eulogy. He was 73 years old, retired high school principal, 3 kids, 7 grandchildren, all alive because Callahan had chosen courage over orders. "Major Callahan taught me something I never forgot," Mitchell said. His voice was strong. "Sometimes doing right means breaking rules. Sometimes saving lives means risking everything. Sometimes courage means standing alone and saying, 'No, this is wrong, and I won't do it.'" He looked at the flag-draped coffin. 387 of us lived full lives because one man had that courage, had children, grandchildren. Thousands of people exist because Major Callahan refused to murder us with orders. Mitchell's voice broke. But 60 men didn't come home. 60 men died because the situation was impossible. Major Callahan carried those 60 names until the day he died. Felt responsible for every single one. I want you to know, sir, he was talking to the coffin now. Tears streaming. "We never blamed you, not once. You saved everyone you could. The ones we lost, that wasn't your fault. That was the war. But the ones who lived, that was you." The 387 survivors never forgot. Held reunions every year until the last man died in 2007, told their children about the major who disobeyed orders. Who'd led them through German lines in groups of 20. Who'd made impossible choices about who lived and who died. Who'd carried the guilt of those 60 men for 49 years. They told the story because it mattered. Because courage isn't just charging into battle. Sometimes courage is saying no to orders that will murder your men. Accepting punishment to save lives. Making choices that will haunt you forever because the alternative is letting everyone die. Thomas Callahan saved 387 lives by breaking every rule. Lost 60 men because the situation was impossible. Carried both numbers until his last breath. That's the real story. Not heroism, not glory, just one man making the hardest choice of his life and living with the consequences forever. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to share this with more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing these forgotten stories every day. Drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if someone in your family served in the Battle of the Bulge. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making sure Thomas Callahan and his 387 survivors aren't forgotten. And thank you for remembering the 60 who didn't make it home. They all deserve to be remembered.